Hey, this is Paul Jackson Jr., and you're watching for GuitarPlayersOnly.com.
Hi everyone, John Liebman here. You're watching for GuitarPlayersOnly.com, coming to you from the exotic booth at the 2017 Winter NAMM Show, Anaheim, California, with our special guest today, Mr. Paul Jackson Jr. Hey, Paul.
Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm doing great. First of all, let's clarify something. A lot of people think that since your name is Paul Jackson Jr., that your father, well, I assume your father's name is Paul Jackson, but not the one that some people think that played with VSOP and Herbie Hancock. That's not your dad, right? So let's get that out of the way.
Right, that is not my dad. Actually, his name is also Paul Jackson Jr., but he never used the Jr. So I think his middle initial is J and mine is M. But we're not related. I've worked with him a couple times and had the honor and privilege to work with him, but we're not related.
Okay, well, now that we know who you aren't,
right,
let's talk about who you are. You are born and raised in Los Angeles, California?
Yep.
So do you come from a musical family? Tell me about the early days, your musical surroundings, your musical upbringing.
Well, you know, there was always music at the house. My mom sang a little bit, and my dad loved to listen to Jimmy Smith. Every Sunday, we heard Jimmy Smith or Groove Holmes. That's what we heard every Sunday. And I took piano lessons as a kid, and so when I was about 9 years old, I said, Mom, I want to play drums. So she took me to the music store, Gardena Valley Music. I'll never forget this. And a set of drums was $369. And she said, well, that's not going to happen. But is there anything else in here that you like? And there was a $20 guitar hanging up. So we got the guitar, and I started playing it really about 3 years later, and just stuck with the guitar. So best $20 investment I think my folks ever made.
Well, how did the career get rolling? Because you've done some pretty major stuff with Stevie Wonder and all the stuff with James Ingram and all the stuff that Quincy Jones produced. And how did you get from a $20 music store guitar to all that and everything else?
Well, I'd say it was nothing but the Lord. I spent a lot of time practicing. Grew up down the street from Patrice Rushen. And so when I graduated from high school, I started playing with her and her band and later recording with her.
Forget-Me-Nots?
Worked on the record. There's no guitar on Forget-Me-Nots, actually, on the song, but on the album, all over the album.
Okay.
But and then at the same time, I met a guy by the name of Frank Wilson, who was a minister, who was a former Motown producer. He was still producing records, and so I worked with him on a lot of things and met people like Joe Sample and Ray Parker Jr., and so I was working on Crusader Records and Barry White Records and all kinds of stuff. And then I had met Lee Ritenour through Patrice, and so between Ray and Lee and actually Al McKay, who at that time was focusing on Earth, Wind & Fire, they would send me on different sessions. So I was working with the Jacksons and doing all kinds of really cool stuff, Cher and Nancy Wilson and all kinds of really, really great projects, and went on to record with Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and a lot of other great folks, you know. Stan Getz, Ella Fitzgerald, B.B. King, just a lot of recording. And like I said, you know, ended up doing a lot of stuff with Michael Jackson.
Well, there's an awful lot that I can ask you about, but tell me a little bit about being in the studio. Did Michael come to the studio, or was it just Quincy and Michael came later? I mean, what was it like recording doing those sessions for Michael Jackson projects?
Well, usually Michael was there because Michael has a lot of ideas, or had a lot of ideas in his head, and a lot of times he would put them on tape or he'd sing them to you. And in fact, famous story, there's a song that they cut called Heartbreak This Place Hotel, and I played the guitar solo on it. And so I got to the studio, and I said, well, what are you hearing? And Michael said, this is what I'm hearing. And he puts in a cassette tape. That's right, a cassette tape. Show you how long ago it was. And on it, he's singing what he wanted, the guitar solo, with the inflections that he wanted. So basically, the solo was me mimicking what he had sung. So, you know, he was there at the studio a lot.
As I always heard and got the impression he was very shy in that kind of surrounding, and he was not very forthcoming. What was your experience as far as that side of him?
He was pretty quiet and shy, except in the studio. In the studio, he was in his element and consummate professional. Just really working hard, really, you know, knew what he wanted and then knew how to get it. So really consummate professional in the studio.
Well, what is keeping you busy these days? I mean, how do you top that, or how do you follow that, is maybe a better choice of words?
Well, you know what? Like I said, I've been really felt fortunate, really blessed. played on Thriller record, and then 30 years later, that was the number one record in the world. Then 30 years later, did it again, playing on Daft Punk's Random Access Memory. So that was kind of cool, and so doing that, doing different shows. We did the Tonight Show for 4 years. We did American Idol for 9 years. Just released a solo record, Stories from Stompin' Willie. Stompin' Willie was a nickname given to me by George Duke while I was doing a lot of work with him. So Stories from Stompin' Willie had one of the number one jazz singles for 2016. So you can get it on Amazon and iTunes and all the fun stuff. Anyway, shameless plug, Stories from Stompin' Willie. So doing gigs off of that. Just finished doing the Kennedy Center Honors. We honored Mavis Staples, James Taylor, and the Eagles. Yes. So that was a blast doing that.
I saw Steve Vai.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so hanging with Steve that's always fun.
I see Leland Sklar.
Yep, saw Lee. Yeah, I saw Mr. Leland was there. That's my bud. And so we had a great time doing that. So just a few things like that, and then, like I said, some Paul Jackson Jr. gigs. We have a Grammy party for Clive Davis coming up in a few weeks, and like I said, doing some touring this summer to support my solo record.
I admire your energy and enthusiasm above everything else.
Still fun. Still a lot of fun.
I mentioned that we're sitting here in the exotic booth,
right?
And there's a reason for that, because you play an exotic guitar. Tell me about the model that you play, why you play it, what you like about it.
Well, it's interesting.
Which is the model that you play?
It's okay. I always get it wrong. I want to say it's is it the HSC or the? I always get it wrong. It's either the HSC or the XSC. I always get it wrong. Forgive me, guys. Go Minnesota. I'm sorry. But anyway, there's a certain S-style guitar. We'll just put it that way. That I really don't have. I mean, I have a kind of a hybrid one that I have for years. But I don't have one that just sounds like a really, really great, organic, strong S-style guitar. We'll just call it that. And the exotic, man, is like if you could find if you could find like the best vintage guitar with the best playing neck that had the clearest sounding pickups, that's what this thing is. They just got it right. They did the research, they did their homework, and they got it right.
Great company, great people too.
Yeah, really, really great people.
What about the future, Paul? What else would you like to do? You've accomplished so much. What have you wanted to do that you haven't gotten around to accomplishing yet? What's on that list?
Well, I'd like to win a Grammy on my own records, my own solo music. Like I said, worked on Daft Punk, that won 7 Grammys, worked with Michael Jackson and several people that have won several Grammys and gotten some recognition that way. But I'd kind of like to win a Grammy with my own music. That would be fun. And then just do more playing. There's so much stuff to learn and so many cool things to play, just to see how much of it I can learn, in the next few years. So just more guitar playing.
All right. Well, we will look forward to that. And good luck on the Grammy. And I know it's going to happen, whether it's this year or next year. I know that I've got a good feeling about it.
Well, John, I thank you. And thank you for taking time, man. People don't have to be nice, and I appreciate you taking the time, man.
Well, thank you. Let me ask you one last question.
Yes, sir.
If you can imagine not being a guitar player, I mean, what would you be if you were not a guitar player, something outside of music?
I would probably be an electrical engineer or a dog trainer. I actually started off going into math science. My goal was to be an electrical engineer and kind of got steered away from that. And as a hobby, well, a little more than a hobby, I train dogs. So, not as a profession, but a hobby, and I've gotten pretty good at it. So probably do one of those two things or both at the same time.
Okay, well, when we get done, I'd like to talk to you about coming over to my house, because we have a dog that can use some training, so maybe you can help us out. Okay. Paul Jackson Jr., it's great getting to know you. I've always been such a fan, and I've admired what you've done. Keep doing what you're doing, and we will all keep enjoying it. Good luck and continued success to you always.
Thank you, John. Thank you much.
From the exotic booth at the 2017 Winter NAMM Show, Anaheim, California, with Mr. Paul Jackson Jr., I'm John Liebman. You're watching for GuitarPlayersOnly.com.